Our mind wants to protect us. The mind is like, honestly, it has a tactical advantage over us. It knows our deepest, darkest fears or insecurities. It knows where we start to feel, we start getting that doubt creeping that says, hey man, you know what, man, maybe this isn't good. Let's go back home to the wife. Let's go back home to the kids. This is not comfortable. So in that moment, the mind directs us. It's a protective mechanism. It saves us from doing bodily harm, or it really saves us from discovering that the mind's like, I want to be in charge of you. I don't want you to be in charge of me. So it tells you, let's just stop right here. But once you start breaking through that barrier and start breaking down that governor that you've put in your mind, because we forget we are in control of our mind. We believe it's the other way around. No, we put in our minds what we should do, but we believe our mind is telling us, it's giving us all this feedback. We have to reprogram it and tell us, no, we're good. We're good, this sucks, but it's okay. When you really sit back at your life and you are in that dark room and you're looking at where you started from and you tell yourself, God, dog, man, my mom is this way. My soon-to-be stepdad got murdered. My dad beat the shit out of me. I can't read and write to save my soul. I've lied about it to everybody. I've cheated on all these tests. My God, man. And then you put a goal in your mind. How are you going to feel, man, when you accomplish this goal coming from that shit? Coming from the hell you came from. A lot of people start from a good starting point. They have a good foundation. What if you can surpass all of these? What if everybody who was way up here started up here, and you started with no legs. You had to grow legs to even start walking, and then crawling, and then running, and then you start passing people with all this given to them. I had to use all this negative shit that was making me weak and horrible as a person. I had to use this as the power that now fueled me. I had to flip it on its head and say, hold up. This might be exactly what I need. The darkness is exactly what I need. It's how you look at your situation. And I was looking at it all f***ed up. I have the ability to see the end before the beginning even begins. And what that means is I know that to get to the very end, I can see it right now. So before I went to Buds and I was losing all this weight and shit, I saw myself walking across the stage at 191 pounds, because that's what I had to get to get into the door. I saw myself 6 months, a year later, whatever's going to take me to do it. I saw myself walking across that stage, getting that certificate of graduation from Buds. And I was able to be there at 300 pounds. And that feeling that I was nowhere near that feeling, I was able to put myself there 1,000,000 times every day. And that feeling of like, my God, that is going to feel amazing. That's what made me suffer. That's what allowed the pain to be real and say, this is worth it. I want to feel for this next 18 months. It took me 18 months to finally become a Navy SEAL, to finally, just get through Buds. 18 months, it's 6 months. It took me 18. That's what woke me up every morning was, I'm going to put myself through this much pain and suffering for a few seconds. That's all it is. A few seconds of joy. And it's so worth it, man. That's what people don't get. So I'm able to put myself at the finish line, even though I have no finish line, but at the finish line of an event before I even start to say, how are you going to feel at the end of this? Visualizing is my biggest tool of life. That's why I've been able to put myself in cold water, put myself in a 100-mile race millions of times before I've done it. And I'm able to go through the race and see how I'm going to feel at mile 50, almost to the exact feeling.
Right. So when it comes up, it's no surprise.
It's no surprise. I've already done this 1,000,000 times. Mm-hmm. SEAL training became pretty hard, and a lot of guys weren't getting through it. So they designed a SEAL prep program.
Like a boot camp for the boot camp.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was 2 months. In my last 2 years before I retired from the military, they sent me there to train these kids.
Wow.
To get ready for
18, 19, 20-year-olds, yeah.
Young kids. So when they get to Navy SEAL training, man, they were physical studs. They were running, swimming. I mean, they were hybrids.
Wow.
But they get to Buds, and the same amount of people would quit.
Why is that?
This is why. We were training bigger, stronger, faster quitters. It's not about...
Not the mind.
That's right. We weren't diving into the sewer. Everybody's got a story. We don't share it on social media. We share our nice life on social media. We all have a dungeon. I'm just willing to talk about mine.
Yeah.
Most of us aren't willing to talk about it. I want to talk about my dungeon. I wasn't getting into the dungeon of these guys' minds. I wasn't building that so-called mental toughness. Mental toughness isn't something that you sample. It's something that you live in every day. So when something hard would happen to these kids, like in Hell Week, it would draw on something that made them very insecure. And they look for comfort. Whenever hardness comes, and you don't know what it is, it may be different for you than it is for me, but you go back to your insecurities. And then when you go back to your insecurities, you then look for comfort within those insecurities. And we all look for that cookie that your mom used to give you when you were sad, when you were sick. We look for our wife or our husband. We look for comfort. It's in those moments you must retrain your mind to think differently in hell. I wasn't training them to do that.
Why weren't you training them?
I wasn't training myself yet because at that time, I was doing what I was told. These guys need to meet a standard.
Physical standard.
A physical standard. The physical standard is not what they need to meet. It's a mental standard you must meet in life. It doesn't go from like one morning I'm this way, next morning I wake up and presto, 5 steps to greatness. No, it ain't that, brother. You read my book, this is hard work. It's every day, like right now. I had to be honest with you, man. I'm even shaking right now being on this show. I'm a big time introvert. How you address it is you face it. You face it every day. You face it every single day of your life where you say, okay, like if you're fat, you need to lose weight. It's patience. It's patience in this fact of accepting who you are right now. I'm fat. I don't like myself. Accepting the fact that if you lose 3 or 4 pounds, that's a huge accomplishment. You have to live in your own world. You cannot judge yourself. That's why social media and all these things are horrible. You can't judge yourself off of the so-called competition that we have made up in our mind. The things that how people look, how people act, how smart someone is. This is a race that you run completely alone. And you're all by yourself. I had tons of sticky notes all over my mirror. It wasn't like be better than John or be as fast as whoever. Okay, David, yesterday you did this. Today, our next goal for the week is this. So I had a year goal, weekly goals, daily goals, hourly goals, and the big goal was I lied a lot growing up. I wanted to be accepted. One goal was, let's go one day without lying. Let's go one day, and then when I would lie to somebody, I would say, hey man, I had to go back now and apologize, say, hey man, I lied to you. You know how hard it is to go back to somebody and say, I lied to you? Hey man, you know what? Back there, I lied to you, dude. I was really jacked up. So I figured out these ways of total accountability. Like right now, I had to run this morning before I talked to you, because why? That's what I'm about. I'm about mind, body, fitness. A lot of folks talk so much about, hey, I'm gonna change your life. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Are you accountable for what you're doing? Are you accountable? And I mean to the T for what you're saying. I am. And that's where it started. It started with that total accountability of let's not lie today. Let's tell people the truth about who you are. And when you can get on and tell someone, like I'm doing right now, exactly how f***ed up you are, that's the goal in life. To put your life on a billboard, on the busiest road, in the busiest highway in the world, and say, this is how f***ed up I used to be. Take it or leave it. I have to be very present in everything I do. Like right now, I'm with Rich Roll. I'm not thinking about shit, but Rich Roll. And what the f*** is coming out of your mouth right now? That's what gives me a huge advantage in life, especially today, in this day and age, with so much going so fast and everybody wants to keep everything going, everything up and everything. I want to be the greatest multitasker of all time. Not me. If I put my 100% into what's in front of me, I will destroy it. If I'm out here just multitasking this, I'm going to half-ass everything I do. So it is the most important thing in the world to me, is being focused at the task at hand.
There's so many times in life you don't want to be doing what the you're doing. You can't just quit. Remember this isn't a hobby, this isn't a joke, it's a lifestyle. So what you say to yourself is important. There's no coach, there's no trainer to keep you going, it's only you. So think about this, you've been working your whole life to get a seat at the table. The seat at the table is you want to be the best amongst all the best people in your career field. So you finally get that letter. It's steak, lobster, it's a big dinner. Everybody's showing up, dressed to the nines. Make sure you show up soaking wet for getting after it, working out hard. Towel around your neck. You respect the event, so make sure you put that towel over that nice chair so you don't it up. The whole thing is this. Don't say a word. Stay uncommon amongst uncommon people. You're never done. Don't stop when you're tired. Stop when you're done. Stay hard.
In the book, you tell people to make a list of everything working against them, every real, valid excuse.
Right.
Why do you have them do that?
There's a lot of power in that list. So in that list of who you are, what makes you up, all these other things, it goes back to, once again, accepting. You have to first accept it before you can fix it. A lot of people walk around, oh man, I'm good. I'm good. No, you're not. You have to accept what you're not. You have to, and people don't want to do that. And that's the only way you can fix it. You have to accept it first before you can go on the journey. A lot of folks never even start the journey, man. They never start the journey because they live in this fake life that who they want to be, they act like they are, but they're not, because they haven't fixed all this stuff yet. You got to fix this first before we can start our journey in life. So that's why I have them make this list. You fix these problems, now your journey can begin, because you no longer care about how people are judging you. When you care more about how someone's judging you, you're going to stay right there. There's no forward momentum. So that's the whole thing about that list.
I understand that you lost some friends in Operation Red Wings. So what did that feel like to you?
Being that I was in 3 Hell Weeks, I knew a lot of the guys. I knew every guy that died on the operation. So the story touched me so much, I wanted to find a way to raise money for their families. So I found the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. If you're a special operator and you die, it will give 100% tuition to your son or daughter to go to college. Okay. Great foundation. So now I gotta find something to do to raise money for it. So I started Googling all these different races. I found the Badwater 135. So it's a 135-mile run through Death Valley in the summertime. Had no idea about ultra running. I'm 250 pounds, I'm a big meathead. So here I am, calling the guy up on Wednesday. He goes, hey, you gotta qualify for this race. I go, how do you qualify? He says, you gotta run 100 miles in 24 hours or less. I'm like, is that even possible? I haven't run over 20 miles the whole year.
Yeah.
Going through BUDS, I started realizing that you have to learn to control your mind in these situations. Okay. So at mile 70, when I was in the worst shape my entire life, I was able to draw on being calm. I was able to finish the race. I was a fat guy trying to be a Navy SEAL now, and my life had come to this crossroads where I'm like, man, you have to go right. And no one was going right. Everybody was going left. I'm like, you have to go right. And to know the pain and suffering I was about to endure by going right, the amount of accountability and failure I was going to witness and suffer by myself alone on this journey, it was daunting. So when I finally got to the Asvab test, and I was taking it for my very last time to get into the SEAL teams or to try to even try out, they weren't supposed to tell me my score. And I went back out to my car after I took it. I was on some computer test, and I know how to use computer. I was wigging out about that because the first time I took it was like some notebook. You know, you open a Scantron and you bubble it in with a number 2 pencil and you turn it in. I saw a computer and I was like, oh, what is, oh my God. I'm like, it's on a computer? So I wigged out there and I had to get a 50 on mechanical comprehension. And
this was like the 3rd time you'd taken the test, right?
This is my 2nd time. So I took it 3 times for the Air Force and twice for the Navy. So this is my 2nd time for the Navy. And they're like, hey, this is it, man. You know, you're done. You're too old. You have a limited amount of time to lose 106 pounds. And you have to take this ASVAB again. There's so many things that's crunching down my head. And so when I took the test, I knew I had a good enough score to get in the Navy, but to be a SEAL, I had to score high on mechanical comprehension, a 50. So the first time I got a 44 on mechanical comprehension. So I'm sitting there and I take the test and I hit send. Send meant it's out in outer space somewhere, but I knew it popped up at the administrator's desk. And he's not supposed to tell me shit. He tells you sit down, take your test, and you leave. I walked out, got in my car, or I was walking around the car, whatever. And I was like, I got to go in and find out, man. So I went in, I literally sat there. Everybody's taking their test, and I'm begging this guy. And he's telling me, I can't tell you shit. It's against government, it's against rules, everything. Right. He opened it up, he goes, okay, man. He said, you got a 65. I said, no, man, I didn't know I got a mechanical comprehension. And he scrolled the page down, and it was exactly a 50. And I literally, like, what came through my body, because it's easy to talk about it now to you, but no one knew the time and energy I put into getting that 50. I put everything on David Goggins to be a Navy SEAL. It's like going to the crap table with your last $1,000. And you say, you know what? I'm gonna put everything on this on black. And hopefully I'll win. If not, I'm broke. I put my whole life, a guy that was scared of the water, a guy that could taught himself how to read and write, on being one of the hardest on the planet. Think about that shit. A guy that came from nothing. I put my whole life, and I'm going to go out here and put everything on David Goggins to be a Navy SEAL. Not to go be a Boy Scout or some shit, a Navy SEAL. And I look at that, and I did all this just to get the opportunity to succeed. That's what people don't understand, man. If people see the end result, I remember that guy saying, my God, man, I can't believe what the I've just done. I put everything, ruin relationships, ruin this, ruin that, put everything on. In fact, I have to become someone in this world, or I'm no good for anybody. I never thought in my wildest dreams I could be a Navy SEAL. It's until you open your mind, open-mindedness creates that. We all shut down our mind. Like, for instance, when I broke the pull-up record, everybody around me who heard the pull-up record was 4,020 pull-ups. That's the first thing they did. Oh, my God.
4,000 in 24 hours? Or was this,
it's 4,020 pull-ups in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
The first thing I did versus closing my mind to like, oh, my God, that's crazy. I went and got a pen
and say, how many is that every minute?
Exactly.
Every hour, every second.
Instead of taking life and making it out to be this grandiose thing, start breaking it down. Start breaking it down. And most of us, we live in a box. And we don't want to go outside that box at all, ever. Outside that box is all these possibilities of life. What we do is we shackle our mind. We are a prisoner in our own mind that this is all I can do. This is all I'm good at. And we take away the possibilities of you could be this, you could be that, you could be all these things. And I never thought at 300 pounds I could be a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
So if my mind was shackled, me and you would never meet. There'd be no book.
Right.
There'd be no book.
Right.
There'd be nothing. So what people don't understand is that they live for themselves, not knowing that you have the power within yourself to change millions of lives by facing life. The reason why we go back to old habits is because our goals are too lofty. We're not achieving our goals fast enough. So what happens is, you know what? Oh, man, we're very impatient nowadays. For me, it was good. I didn't have a phone. I was out of this world by myself. It was a race against David Goggins. It wasn't a race against, God, I want to look good for this person or that person. It was me. I got to change myself. So for me, if I lost 5 pounds in a week, I got a feeling. I allowed myself to feel proud of that. I didn't look at, I got to lose 106 pounds. I'm like, man, I went from 297, now I'm 292. In 1 week, man, I'm killing it. We're not proud of ourselves for the small accomplishments. What we need is this monstrosity of the thing to happen and say, I did it. Nah, there's a process that you have to go through, and patience is the process. And if we don't have patience, after a week, I haven't lost 30 pounds, man, I'm done. I'm over it. So that's what I found out with people, man. They're not patient enough to realize and to enjoy the moment, not live in it, just enjoy it. There's no finish line in life, but enjoy that moment. Roger that, man. I lost 5. Let me go 10 next week. So that's the whole thing about it. That's how people lose it.
You get the opportunity to become a Navy SEAL, and then you end up going through BUD/S 3 times. It's like,
yeah, Merry Christmas.
Insane,
I got lucky,
man.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to go through 3 times, and not in a sadistic way, in a life-changing, growing way. I found out so much about myself through going through that training 3 times, and I went through the hardest part of the training 3 times. You know, after the first, so first phase is the crucible, man, and that's where I was at for 3 times. I spent most of my time in BUD/S in first phase.
In the hell week.
In the hell weeks. And being in that grind. And in that grind, I got time to examine myself. I call it the live autopsy. And also examine other people. Because I was really good about putting people way above me. Because I wasn't shit. I was never nobody. So for me to be on the same stage as these great wannabe Navy SEALs and BUD/S trainers, like, my God, you guys are amazing. I actually got here with you all. Thank you so much for allowing me into play. But as I was there for so long, I got a really good chance to sit back, because now the cold water is just water now. It's no longer cold anymore. Your mind starts to change. They say get in the water, most people think about it. For you, it became my life. So I started learning that if you start to change your mindset versus it being like, oh my God, this sucks, I became a professional BUD/S student. So I wasn't going to leave until I graduated. So I started realizing if this is my home, this is what I am, I had to always reset the bar. I had to reset my new norm. There always had to be a new norm. So one thing we don't do is we don't have a new norm. My new norm is you get up every morning at 4 o'clock and you suffer. This is your new norm. That became my new life. Most people want to get out of it. I said, no, this is your new life. This is who you are. Your new norm is you wake up and you suffer. And I started realizing if that's my mentality, this shit ain't hard anymore.
Right.
Your new norm is you wake up, you get in the cold water, you're going to be here till this shit's done. Whenever they say you're out, you get out. So my new norm, so I do that now today. My new norm now is if I'm doing a 200-mile run, your new norm now, man, is you are doing 200 miles.
The Roger that mentality.
That's it, man. I don't live on the surface of anything.
Yeah.
Surface is what got me where I was at. It got me from 175 pounds to 300 pounds. Telling everybody I'm good. I don't give a damn. I'm good. No, they're hollow words. A lot of us speak in hollow words. I used to speak in hollow words. I don't do it anymore. Everything that comes out of my mouth has substance. It's real. And we all have these feelings in our bodies, in our minds, in our souls. I act on mine. A lot of us who are afraid of something, we allow our minds to choose the path of least resistance, so we go a different route. When I'm afraid of something, it's telling me you must conquer
this
that.
thing.
You must do that.
Yeah.
You have to go that way. And most of us don't understand that mentality. We go left and we wonder why we haven't fulfilled something in our lives. It's because we continue to take the journey that is mapped out. And how I look at it is I talk in life like a lot of us in life want to take the 4-lane highway that has road maps and all this other stuff on it, man. It tells you where to go, gas stations. The next 10 miles up, you're going to see a McDonald's or Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
It's the easy route. Very few of us want to go to the right side.
A lot of us dream big. You should dream big. Dreaming big is important. You know, some of us want to be doctors, lawyers, dentists. Some of us want to be in special operations. So you have this big dream. You can see it so clearly, like it's right in front of you. You can go out and touch it. But the thing about it is somewhere, if you dream big enough, somewhere down that journey, that dream becomes a nightmare. And what happens in that nightmare, you start to have all these questions. Like, if you want to be in special ops, you may not be a great swimmer. You may just realize that I'm not a great swimmer, I'm not a great runner. You may start to fail tests. And all these questions start to flood your mind. Why am I here? I'm not good enough. Trust me, I know all about the questions. They will flood your mind. If you do not have the answers for them, you will quit. The answers lie in the repetitions. You must not forget the repetitions you put into trying to dominate the craft that you're in today. Always, always embrace the suck, adapt to the suck.
When you're afraid of something, you have to master it. That's how you start to overcome it. So what I realized, when I get to that point where I want to quit, everybody, they get to the point where they want to quit. This is what happens. The mind tells you, let's go home. Let's take a warm shower. Let's get some food. This is not right. This is that. If you cannot answer the questions at that moment, because your mind's going to start giving you all these questions. And if you can't answer them, you're going to quit. What I realized when I was going through BUD/S, Ranger School, all this 100-mile race, 200-mile races, pull-up records, my mind would come creeping in. Like when I was doing 4,030 pull-ups at 2,000 pull-ups and my hands were ripped open, my mind said, look, brother, we've done all these other things. You've proven yourself. You're good. If I didn't have the answer to respond to my mind and say why I'm here, why I'm doing this, you will always lose that fight. You have to have the response to what your mind is going to tell you. And another thing about that is self-talk. A lot of people have like these big four on mental toughness. All that's just crap about self-talk, visualization. It's true, but the thing about self-talk and all these things, they ask me, what do you think about when you're on mile 100 of a 205-mile run? What are you thinking about when you realize you've run for 24 hours and you have 24 more hours to run and you have another 105 miles? What goes through your mind? What do you say to yourself? I want to know. A lot of people think self-talk works. It does, but it doesn't work without the suffering before your mind starts saying we need self-talk. So what I tell myself is I go back to the months and years of preparation to get to that day. And I'm telling myself, the 3:30 in the morning, when I'm looking at my shoes and I want to go out there and run 30 miles, I have to, in that second, in that moment of this self-talk, my mind saying, you got to find more, I once again calm down, go back into my mind, in my cookie jar, I call it, and I have to reflect back on the shit I did to get here. And that becomes my self-talk. Self-talk does not work unless it is real. Most of us lie to ourselves in this self-talk. It doesn't work. It has to be real. It has to be something that you've done to make it really work. You ask me, what haunts you the most? What haunts me the most is that if I would have died at 300 pounds, let's say I was 75 years old, I got to heaven, and God has a chart like that on everybody's life. God knows all. Let's say that. I don't care what you believe in. Doesn't matter. I'm not judging anybody. But let's say my thing is God. You get to heaven, I'm 300 pounds, I sit down, I was a cockroach terminator my whole life, and we're sitting down just like this. You're God and I'm David. And he gives me that chart, and he says, look at this. And I'm looking at this chart, and on the chart it has all these different things, but my name's on it. But these things aren't me. I was going to change the world. I was going to set records. I was going to be a Navy SEAL. I was going to be all these things in the military that I accomplished. You're going to get the VFW award. You're going to be honored here, honored there. And I'm like, God, this isn't me. Like it says David Goggins, I was an Ecolab guy. I sprayed for cockroaches, and I'm 300 pounds. It said here I'm 185. It says here I got a bachelor's and a master's. It says all these things. And God goes, no, that's who you were supposed to be.
Wow.
My biggest fear in life is if there is a final resting place in this world and there's a final judgment and you talk to something much bigger than you. I don't want to sit down and have a conversation with someone with something that says, you're in heaven, this is what you should have been on earth. And are you really in heaven now or are you in hell? Thinking about how much I left on the table for fear, for not willing to go over the wall and over the next wall and over the next wall. So in my mind, I believe that. And God knows all. At least I believe that. I want God to be up there right now as we're speaking, writing stuff down, saying, my God, he exceeded even my expectations. Wow. That's how I live my life. I now know that there is no cap on the human mind. There's no cap. We cap it ourselves. When you grow up weak and you start to master your mind, because my whole thing is whenever I'm weak at something, whenever I'm scared of something, I master it. I was a weak-minded person, so I mastered my mind. And in mastering my mind, I mastered the human mind. And I realized why I no longer judge people, why I no longer put people on a pedestal, because we're all f***ed up in our own way. We all have demons. Some people hide them better than other people. So I know we all have them. By me knowing that, I know that most alpha males are very fragile. Very fragile. They never want to see another person harder than them, especially in that kind of realm.
The ego attachment
the ego,
is very strong.
Ego will f*** you up every time. Ego is serious. So if I can hurt your ego, I got you. So by me having such a fragile ego growing up, all this was my advantage. I was doing a live autopsy on how f***ed up I was. I was like, hey, this f***ed me up. I better f*** other people up too. So I started using all these different tools and tactics to get in instructors' heads. And the taking souls, that's where it happened, man. We're Wednesday, freezing cold. Everybody's jackhammering. Everybody wants to, everybody's just wanting to get through it now.
Jackhammering is when you just can't stop shivering.
You can't stop shivering. You're sitting there, this uncontrollably jackhammering. And the instructors take great pride in watching you suffer. They do. We, in a sick way, it's kind of funny. You were there once as a student. Now you're an instructor. But I knew, how would I be thinking if I was an instructor? I would love seeing this sadistic go on. But what wouldn't I like to see? I would hate to see some guys just looking like this is just another day on the beach and go yourself. I would hate to see that.
Yeah.
So
they all want to think like when they did it, they were harder.
They were harder.
Yeah.
Everybody's hard. So I said, you know what, man? It's time. I can't fight you. You guys can f me up all day long. That's your job. And I love your job. I love what you guys are doing. You guys are making us better. But now I want to take the tactical advantage and I'm going to start f with you. So I got my boat crew, Bill Brown. I had Chris Kyle on my boat crew,
right.
American Sniper. I had a couple of hardcore. And everybody right now is kind of like in their own world. Let's just get through this, man. I can't wait till Friday so we can graduate, how we can get going. I said, let's go ahead and have some fun. I said, we're gonna start with these guys. So the evolution here was we just got through with med check. We're stripped down to nothing, and they're checking us out, making sure we're good. Checking for pneumonia, checking for up knees. My knees all jacked up, but they're giving me shots and shit. And I was like the boat crew leader of boat crew 2. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the front of the boat, and I tell our guys, this is what we're going to do. The boat was like on our heads. So all it was, we're supposed to lift the boats up above our head. That's all you got to do. But when you're this weak, you're this fragile, you're this tired, the boat's heavy. So there's a thing you can do when you do boat presses. You can get the boat and like just toss it up and catch it. And that shows like you're jacked up. So everybody's holding the boat and they're shaking and the boat's starting to come down their head and all the boat crews are all lined up and they're f***ed up. And I'm looking at that and I turn around my boat crew and I say, hey guys, it's time to take some souls. And they'd be like, what the f*** are you talking about? I said, we're going to get, I go, you see all these instructors out here, all in their jackets and drinking coffee and laughing and smiling and shit. I want their faces to go straight up numb. So we're going to do this. We're going to start boat pressing this motherfucker. Just take my lead. Trust me. You'll get energy from it. We start throwing this boat up in the air, catching it, throwing it up and catching it. And we start yelling, can't hurt boat crew 2. We're yelling our ass off and we're doing it. And they make a stop. Like what the like stop. I look at these instructors and their faces literally look like someone just took their soul out. 'Cause I know where their minds were. Like they were thinking about themselves. Like, what the f just happened, man? I know me on Wednesday, I couldn't have done that. How are they doing it? So the rest of the time, going through Hell Week, it was like we owned it. We owned it.
Right.
Boat Crew 2, we won every single race. We were just dominating. And it was a strong boat crew. And that's where Taking Souls is, there's a few Taking Soul stories, but that's one of them. A lot of us don't know of a whole nother world that exists. It's on the other side of suffering. Once you break these barriers that you have made for yourself, like the mind is the most powerful thing in the world. It is. It is so amazing that I used to be a 300-pound guy and I thought that was it. Could barely read, could do anything. And now that what was inside that person was this guy that's in front of you today. That's how scary the mind is. And that's what I started realizing through this journey is that once I got a taste of, wow, man, I haven't even begun to crack what the mind is capable of. And what I started realizing is on the other end of suffering, that's the real growth of life. Because you realize how the mind processes shit. And I talk about another thing called theory and practice. A lot of people are theorists. These smart guys that read these books and shit, man, and they sit down, they tell you what the mind is supposed to do. And a lot of us listen to that shit. It becomes like, this is it, man. This old man who has been studying the mind forever, this is the cap that we have. By being a practitioner, I went out and realized a lot of these guys are so wrong, man. The mind has capabilities that are so unknown, and I found that through suffering. And there's a whole nother world on the other end of that. One big thing is the accountability mirror. You have to start with yourself. So what happened in my life was we start to get, I call it like the rucksack. A rucksack is a pack that you carry in the military, and you put all your stuff in it. Your radios, your food, your water, all that stuff you have to carry in the military. That's your rucksack. It's a backpack pretty much. As you're growing up, we all have a backpack. Most of ours, hopefully, is empty, and what we put in it is all the crap we go through in life. That's what is in the backpack for the civilians, and we carry it around with us. So what you have to start doing is realizing that no matter where you're at in life, I got called nigger a lot. My dad abused me, learning disability, stutters, immaturity, insecurities, self-doubt, so much crap on top of me. So much stuff. I lied a lot to create friends. So much stuff was in my backpack. No one's coming back to help me. So it starts with that person in that mirror. You have to realize you are on your own now. And whatever else you believe in, I don't care what you believe in, but on earth, it's a very lonely journey. And it starts with the accountability mirror of looking at saying, hey, my dad who beat the hell out of me is not coming back. All these things are coming back. I have to face myself. And you have to own all those things that people may have done to you. Now it's yours. You got to own it. And it's yours now to fix the problems that people did to you. It makes no sense. It's not fair. I get it. But if you live in that woe is me mentality of guess what? My dad did this to me. My mom did this to me. People who bullied did this to me. You're going to always live right there. You have to figure out ways to move forward because you're not coming back. And it starts with the mirror. And I call it the accountability mirror in the book. If you walk into any kind of event, whether it be physical or mental, if you walk in with already putting that block on your mind of, man, this ain't gonna happen. People go, how did you run 135 miles to Death Valley? How did you run 100 miles with no training? Because I went into it not thinking, I can't do this, man. I went into it with a strategy. I had an open-mindedness. So until your mind is open to the possibilities that I can do this, you would never be able to do it. Once the mind starts to believe it can be achieved, only then does it start to break down tactically how we can do this. Until then, you're gonna always lose. There's energy all around us, but we think that we have to have it. It has to come externally a lot of times. We gotta have like a TV in front of us, watch somebody, listen to a podcast, listen to a great music. A lot of times in life it's quiet. And those are the times when you want to run and hide. You gotta be able to find energy. You gotta make up games, make up tricks, make up whatever you can to get to the next evolution of life. So taking souls is just another way. It's not about hurting the person you're against. It's about finding a tactical advantage in every situation you physically can to get to the next. You're trying to inch further to the goal line. And you don't want to.
And what is that goal line?
The goal line is whatever it is for you. For me, I want to get through Hell Week. I want to get through Hell Week with my head up high, being strong. I don't know what the goal line is for everybody. My goal line has been very different for most people. But you're trying to find energy and strength to stay in the fight, to continue on until you get that second wind. The second wind is coming, whatever the second wind may be for you. It's coming. But what happens is we get so stressed out that the end is so far away that we just can't find another foothold or another handhold, so we jump off the cliff and we just fall.
Well, life took me somewhere unexpected. I'm unprepared. It's about 6 degrees out here, and I'm underdressed. But guess what? No one gives a f***. You gotta get the in. Sometimes life can really hijack your mind. When that happens to you, you're all f***ed up. Your goals, your ambitions, everything is out the window. In life, we all go through different things. Sometimes your girlfriend or boyfriend breaks up with you. Guess what? Get the f over it. They no longer want you. Maybe you failed a test in school. You worked your ass off. Guess what? You failed the test. Get over it. Move past it. Learn to not let life hijack your brain. At work, you've been working your ass off for that new promotion. You don't get it. Someone else does. Maybe they kiss better ass than you do. Guess what? Get over it. Life will hijack your mind if you let it. Don't allow all these things to make you a lesser person. You must own your mind. Don't let life own yours.
Once you transform yourself, and even though I'm not running from myself, I'm constantly facing myself. I'm constantly battling myself. I'm not running from them anymore. I used to, but now I'm constantly battling them. So now what happens is, once you get to a point in your life where you're able to be on a podcast or be on a TV show and tell everybody how f***ed up you are, I will answer any question you want about me. Anything I did, anything bad, good, ugly, I will tell you. When you get to that point in your life, that's where your real journey begins. And you no longer have to have a small victory to keep you going. You now realize what your purpose in life is. And you realize all this is just part of it. But at first, you need all these different tactics to keep you going because you haven't figured it out yet. Once you figure out that you're in a race amongst billions of people that live in this world, you're in a race by yourself. You have a purpose, and it's your purpose, not everybody else's purpose. It is your purpose and only your purpose, and it's your race. So then you're like, hey man, I'm doing my thing. I'm doing it to the best of my ability. What's next? There's no longer these small increments to get through life. Because once you figure out why you're here, it just becomes a process.
Talk about Mr. Dobbs. He's a good friend of mine still to this day. And he went into that place, man, and I knew where he was going. It's in my third hell week. And I knew Sean real well, but I knew he was real arrogant. He had a serious chip on his shoulder like I do. I still do. I got to control it every now and then. And it got me in a lot of trouble sometimes. But I knew he had it. I knew that chip on your shoulder not being controlled, it will get you f***ed up. And it cost him a lot going through buds. And I saw the look. Because I once had the look when I was going through pararescue school. When something got so hard and your mind can't process the hardness, you don't know the right tools to get through something hard because you've never been challenged before. I could tell he was a superhuman, that nothing ever challenged him. But I knew, because I already been through Hell Week a couple times, I knew, don't underestimate that shit. It will find a demon and it will bring out some insecurities in you, and it did. And it was like maybe 30 hours in the Hell Week or something like that. I'm looking over at him, and I smile at him. We're standing just like this in line, and he's getting his med check. A doctor's looking at him. It happened just to be beautiful timing. And I'm sitting there, I'm getting med checked, and I'm looking at him, and his eyes says he's 1,000 yards still looking right through me. And he's getting med checked, and I'm looking at him. And before all this happened, I told him, I said, don't underestimate this man. He goes, I can't ever see myself quitting shit, Goggins. I go, watch out. I go, this will get in your head. I go, the end is a long way away. So we're sitting there eye to eye, and he didn't see me. I'm right in front of him. And I can tell he's thinking he has that quitting mind starting up. And I look at him, I go, I told you, I told you. And next thing I knew, man, a car pulls up, and he rolled out.
Rings the bell.
He rings the bell and he quits. But it was he's a great human being, hard. It doesn't make you, when you quit something like that, man, it's a huge lesson learned that I can't go into anything thinking that there's nothing that's not going to get in my way. You got to be prepared for all those obstacles.
When I picked up your book, the thing I loved about it is the amount of effort that you've been through to give us. I'm sure this was suffering too, like writing this book. The amount of effort that you've been through to actually give us detail on your life.
We all have different things in our life that have scarred us. We want to act like those scars don't exist. So those scars, like, if you go out and you get cut, that scar is going to be there on your arm. You can go down and look at that cut and say, oh, or that scar and say, oh, that happened from, I was in the kitchen, or what happened. We have the same thing on our brain. I have all these scars on my brain from growing up, from, being abused, from suffering through life, from having a learning disability, from stuttering, from having just a really bad childhood. And so all those memories, I had to cut open that scar and go into it. And that was a hard process for me to do. Not only was that a hard process for me to do, for me to have the courage to share that with people, you know, because I'm the so-called toughest man on the planet. So they think. So for me to break open that shell and tell people, hey, that wasn't always me. You know, it's hard to do, you know, it's hard to do. So it was a tough process. Throughout this journey, I started becoming this new person. I started creating this new person. People started seeing me as this amazing superhero. In the back of my mind, I knew the real story. And I was like, man, one day you have to really share it. I'm like, man, but do you have the courage? You know, like, it's great to live right here. I've established this. People think you're great. Just stay here. Don't go back. Let's not go back. But the only way you can help people out is let them know that this is possible. So I had to go back and say, this is where I come from.
Yeah.
And where I come from is hell. All that shit that I went through in my life to get here today, it is tattooed. It is tattooed in my brain. Every day I wake up, I am constantly battling that person that is like, man, you know, back in the day, this happened to you, man. You know, like, you got called nigger so many times, and your dad beat the shit out of you, man. And, you know, you couldn't read, and this dad going junior year. All these things start to creep up, even now where you're at today. Every day, you're having to constantly battle. It's not as bad as it used to be by any means. Right. But that person's still there. That person always lives. And that's the point about you have to continue to always challenge yourself every day. The one thing I'm most scared of in the world is losing touch with the best thing in the world is your mind. Your mindset, how you can picture yourself, how you can focus, how you can drive, how you can put yourself in so many situations to get out of it. Because those headphones we listen to, those phones that we Google to find information, there's so many situations in my life where that shit's not gonna help me. It's not gonna help me.
And you're able to just turn that off.
So fast, because I know what's helped me. None of that stuff's ever helped me. Mm-hmm. None of that stuff's ever helped me. What has helped me has been me alone, getting my shit together and being accountable for who I'm not and who I want to be. It's the only thing that's helped me. I coach a lot of people nowadays, billionaires, who call me on the phone and say, man, I'm still missing something. It's because they did what they were good at. And they have this beautiful family, 2-3 houses, cars, everything. Has everything in the world. On the outside looking in, like, my God, man, how can you be unhappy? I walk around with the backpack with all my stuff in it, and no car.
Right.
And I walk around, happiest person in the world. Have nothing, happy as hell. It's because I found out the whole key to life. It's not in all that. You have to face yourself. So many people live to be 100 years old, and they die miserable, having everything, because they never examined. I call it my live autopsy. You never examine this. Happiness, peace, enlightenment, it's all up here, man. It's all up here. And when I start talking like this, people go, man, you know, no, it's the truth, man.
Yeah, it is true.
It's all up here. You just gotta be willing to go and face it. And that's the hard part. You don't need to have this humongous GPA and all this other shit. What you need is the one thing I talked about in my book, which is straight up brutal work ethic. You have to be willing to outwork everybody in the world. And that's the hard part. That's the hard part. This isn't like some 5-step process where if you do these 5 steps, you're gonna end up with this magical world. No, I'm basically teaching you how to callous over your victim's mentality. I'm teaching you how to, like, I did 67,000 pull-ups in training for the pull-up record. I was seriously callousing my hands to protect them. What I'm trying to do with people is teach them how to find more of themselves to where they empower themselves. I'm all about the underdog. The most important conversation is the one you have with yourself. You wake up with it, you walk around with it, you go to bed with it. Eventually, you act on it. Sometimes you act on it good, sometimes bad. You got to change the internal dialogue. That person in your head that's talking that shit to you, until you change the internal dialogue in your head, until you callous over the victim's mentality that the world is out to get you because of you are the only, you got to change that shit. man.
Yeah, but you don't understand my life, David.
Yeah, I do. So that's the thing about it. And that's why I can talk about it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. A lot of folks I get that mentality. I once had that mentality that no one understands what the I'm going through. And if you keep that mentality, you're going to stay in the same exact spot that you're in, that no one understands me. There's millions of people. Why do you think a book that I self-published, is doing so well with a story that's so fucked up? People I'll never forget when I went to a publishing house, who's going to resonate with this story? No one's going to buy this book. I'm like, are you not in the world? Are you not in society? You're never alone. Everybody's going through shit. So when people get this mentality of you don't understand me, you can throw a rock to someone that can understand you if they're willing to break themselves down and stop hiding. Mm. A lot of people understand you, but you got to stop hiding. And that's why I tell people, a lot of people are going through shit. They just hide better than you did. That's all they did. They're just hiding better. We live in a world now that's so kind. We find the kind way around everything. If you don't look good, I have to find a kind way of saying, I don't like your shirt.
Right.
That's not the approach. If that's the approach you're looking for, that book is not for you. Can't Hurt Me is not for you. The approach you have to take, at least I took, you take whatever approach you want. The conversation had to be a real honest conversation in the accountability mirror of, guess what? I was fat. Don't find a kind word to say that, you know what? I've gained some weight. No, you're fat. When I couldn't read, not hey, you have a learning disability. No, I cannot read. I have a 4th grade reading level. I'm struggling. And sometimes I call myself stupid. Not in a way to put myself down. So don't take it my God, those are so hurtful. Yeah, they're hurtful. Dishonest. The conversation has to become an honest conversation of where you're at mentally. Where am I at mentally? I look like shit. I feel like shit. I'm falling behind in school. I'm lazy. My house is a mess. You have to look at what it is and call it what it is. Don't find words to make yourself feel better, because so we hang around people that make us feel better, that tell us what we want to hear, not what we need to hear. And so we stay away from those people. And we stay away from those people, our internal dialogue becomes that kind, it's okay. It's not okay. So that's where it starts. It starts with that accountability of it's not okay anymore. This can no longer be okay. And calling yourself out for exactly what you are and exactly how you need to fix it. As you know, I'm a serious introvert and very afraid of people. I got judged so much growing up that this is uncomfortable for me. All these podcasts, that's why I post once a week.
Yeah.
I don't, people are ugly, people are nasty. They make me want to choke the shit out of them. And they're just nasty people. So I stay away from them. But the one thing I realized why I wrote the book is, honestly, I have a story to tell, as we all have a story to tell. And what I realized on my journey was a lot of us don't believe that we can achieve the impossible. And along my journey, I started realizing, man, I gotta tell some people about this shit, man. I discovered something that some people have, but they don't even know. All of us have it. But along this way, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't a theorist. I became a practitioner. And I was like, my God, I'm busting down so many barriers of, I have a learning disability. Okay, but I'm catching up with everybody. I figured that out. I figured out all these negative things in my life that were keeping me in this hole. I'm like, I gotta tell people, man, that, hang on a second, man. You can achieve the absolute impossible.
You are pretty good about celebrating the victories along the way and celebrating yourself.
I talk about it with my fiance every single day. I talked about it with her 2 hours today. I said, we are grinding so hard that we are losing the vantage point of what we have accomplished today. We got podcast, interview, flying, do this, do that. I'm like, stop. It's just me and you in this mom and pop thing that we're doing. Look at where the this book is at right now.
It's crazy.
Look how many people we're touching. Shut up and just think for a second. Let's stop. Because all we did was talk about this and this. I go, no, enjoy this for a second. We have to take time and realize what the we've accomplished here.
That's an evolution for you, man.
Huge. But
that's
I realized,
a very different David Goggins than even from a couple of years ago.
Huge. Because you have to, what is it all about? I want to keep on grinding. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is you have to respect what you've done. Take a second, not live in it, not sit around and say, I'm good. Sit back and say, let me look at the vantage point now that I'm at. That's why you reset the vantage point. Get the tactical advantage. If you get the tactical advantage too quick and start fighting, you got to take a second to take observation of where I'm at. What have I done? Am I in the right spot? I'm obviously in the right spot right now. Now we can go back to fighting.
I get a lot of questions about how I lost so much weight. People want to know how they can get started. So basically, you're thinking too much off the bat. When I lost my weight, I didn't look for a trainer. I didn't do all that thinking. I didn't go on Jenny Craig. I didn't do all that shit. What I did was I basically stopped eating so much food. I cut my calories down. So as far as the workout goes, we overthink that also. Until you find a trainer, go out there and start walking. Put some shoes on, start running. Go to the gym, do the elliptical trainer. It's not rocket science. A lot of folks talk about overtraining. You gotta train first before you can overtrain. Sometimes you wake up in the morning time and you're sore and you feel like you're overtrained. No, you got sore legs. Get out of your own head and stop overthinking it.
The world is so fast-paced. The world is so noisy. So my conversation now a lot of times is, my God, slow down. Mm-hmm. The world can take you here, be there, be everywhere. And I lose myself sometimes. So I catch myself in the airport. I catch myself in the plane while I'm writing stuff down. Okay, remember this, remember that. And I go, hey, hang on a second, Goggins. What got you here? This isn't what got you here. Slow the down. Go back to the quiet place of that dirty mirror in that $7 a month place you used to live in. That's where you grew. So that's what I'm constantly reminding myself of. Go back to your roots. Now, I'm not saying go back to hell, but I'm saying don't forget where you come from. As you start to explode out of the gate when you become someone, my conversation is, do not forget your roots. Do not forget your roots. Don't let this become so big that you lose yourself amongst the noise. Go back to the quietness of what made you successful. I used to hate people not liking me. One of the hardest things in the world for me at a young age was, my God, I just want to fit in. I want to fit in. I want you to like me. So that's a horrible place to be in life, because you lose yourself. When you want to fit in with people so badly, normal people, no better than you. You do whatever you can to fit in. That's a bad place to be. You lose yourself in trying to create a character that other people will accept. And that's where I found a lot of joy. Man, this is God. This is me. Mm-hmm. I speak in the third person. I'm up. I got some shit going on. I'm still working on myself. Take it or leave it. You don't like me? Take a number and get in line, man. The motivation when people are losing, all these people who come out here and talk about how great they are, and I see it all the time, it makes me sick, man. Get real with yourself. People cannot relate to you, man. You are unrelatable. When you come out here and say, hey, man, I'm the baddest to ever live. Okay, great. Well, what am I going to learn from you? You learn from people who are willing to tell you, this is where I started from. This is how much I fell on my ass. This is how bad I used to really be. I still have those moments, because why? You're human. We're all jacked up, man. We're all jacked up. And that's what makes my story relatable. I'm willing to let you in to see I'm decently successful now. But I didn't come out like this, man. I didn't come out. That's the story, is you have to give people just a little bit of hope. There's no hope when they just see greatness in you everywhere. You have to be able to get yourself down to a level of, check it out, man. There's hope for you. That's all I'm trying to give you. Just a little bit.
So what's your excuse? Is it too cold where you live? Is it too hot where you live? Does it rain too much? Now it's time for some real talk. Maybe you're the only black person applying for a job. Maybe you're the only female. Maybe you're the only gay person. Job, whatever the it may be. Maybe that's in your head. Maybe that's your excuse for not being better. Life's a real big picture. When I was young, all those things got in my head. Black, not smart enough, single mom, all that bullshit owns space in my head. If you're allowing people and things and situations to own space in your head, you're losing. Last thing, life's one big head game. You play with yourself. If you lose, it's because you allow life to get in your head. Stay hard.
When I got through with that first 100-mile race that I did around that 1 mile track that I didn't prepare for, and I was considerably, it was horrible. And I'll never forget, I found such peace and beauty. And I got done, I was in the worst pain of my life. And I got done and my wife pulled the car up on my ex-wife, pulled the car up on this little lawn, and I got in the back of it. And I got up the stairs. I'm not gonna go through the whole story, but I remember laying in the tub. And she put the shower on me, and I ran 101 miles in like 19 hours. And I was like peeing dirt out of me. And I'm sitting there and I'm jackhammering, and my body is just the most broken it's ever been, even to this day. And this feeling came over me. Call it crazy if you want, but very few people, I guarantee, have ever felt this before, to push themselves so far outside of what they thought was even possible, even for me. I laid in that tub, and I didn't want it to go away. I had drained myself of every bit of strength, energy I had, and it was the best feeling I had in my life. All that pain, it was confirmation. It was confirmation that I had gone through a crucible, and I had figured out another level of David Goggins, a level that I thought was humanly impossible for anybody to do. When I was at mile 70 and pissed all over myself, and I had 30 more miles to go, and I was damn near dead, and I was able to go 31 more miles. In that process of the next 31 more miles, I found out more about myself in that 31 miles than I ever have in my entire life. The conversations, the mental blocks, the roadblocks, everything horrible. It was just feeding at me like light speed. Get the f out of here, man. But I was able to figure out different tactics. And when I finally got done with that, and I laid in that tub and it was over, the feeling of, my God, man, you just really discovered a whole new world, a whole new part of the brain that I guarantee very few people have. So think about it, when I say suffering, people cringe. People, that's the one word, whenever I post about it, people cringe. It's not about suffering and how people may look at suffering. Like you have to just go to a place that just every day of your life is suffering. You have to tap into suffering every day of your life because we have so much scarring that we have to clean up. You have to look at suffering as almost like I look at failure. To succeed, you must fail. In failure and in suffering, all the answers are in there. All the answers to all the test questions. The test is your life. All the answers are in there. You don't have to live in suffering and pain and failure all the time. You have to learn, I need to visit it. Like people hate working out. You're only gonna visit working out maybe an hour a day. 23 other hours of the day, you're not in it. But how you become in shape is you must visit suffering, visit working out 1 hour a day. Visit suffering 1 hour a day. Visit your past failures 1 hour a day. The relationship with it is the answers are in there. They are in there. Within the suffering, go in there, and I call it the live autopsy. The live autopsy. How you find out someone died, they crack you open after you're dead. How you can live is do it while you're alive. Go back in your brain, crack it open while you're alive. Don't wait until you're dead to figure out why you died. Do it while you are living. Go in there, go into the suffering, go into the pain of your life and say, why did this suck for me so bad? Why am I afraid of all this stuff? Why have I shut down the whole world? I guarantee I'll tell you why you shut down the whole world. It's in these nooks of the suffering within your brain, in the scarring, are all the answers to why you are on the couch feeling sorry for yourself. They lie within the scars. Visit them for at least an hour a day, study them, and then you'll find out more about yourself. You will then grow. So don't look at it as every day I suffer. Go into it an hour a day. Learn from yourself, learn from life, learn from your failures, learn from your insecurities, learn from your self-doubt. Don't just say, I'm afraid to jump off an airplane. What makes you afraid of it? Study it. That's why I studied my mind. Why I became so powerful in the mind is because I realized I was weak. So instead of running away from the mind, I dove into it and said, what is making me weak? Oh, this makes sense. I came from hell. I came from a place that beat me down to nothing, which is why I'm afraid. All this makes sense. So systematically, one by one, I went back and met every single person in my mind, every situation. I went one-on-one with them again in my mind and said, okay, let's now revisit this. And that's how you do it. That's how it works. I write down my day. And what I do is I go back and study that day. Like sometimes I might get sick. I might be overtrained. I might gain a couple pounds here. I might feel whatever. It's like my accountability journal of what I'm doing with my life, physical, mental. I had an eating journal, all this shit. And it helps me go back to, once again, study. I'm a lab rat. And I study myself. And I'm like, when I'm feeling f***ed up, I go, okay, what did I do last week? And usually I can find out where I messed up last week, how much I'm traveling, how much I'm sleeping, how much I'm doing all this stuff. And through journaling, man, you can really figure out so much about where you're messing up in life and what you need to fix about yourself.
Taking constant inventory. Being honest about that.
And that's the thing about it, you cannot put bullshit in there.
Yeah.
It's got to be a real journal about, hey, today I messed up here. Today I should have been a better person here, and not just saying it, but actually trying to fix it tomorrow. Well, I sat back and I had the top 5 people come at me, top 5 publishing houses, and it was down to the last 2, and they're offering $300,000. I'm a first-time author, and I decided to go with one of them. And $300,000 for a guy like me, I'm sitting back, that's pretty good money. So a few days before I was going to sign the contract, I sat back, talked to my fiance, my family, and everybody's like, hey, this is good, this is great, whatever. But I started thinking about my life. I started thinking about everything that I've gone through in my life, everything I had gone through, and I had a chance to reflect. And that's one thing I never did in my life for long enough, is have time to reflect. I was always, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? Now that I'm retired, and you have a lot of time to look back on what you've done, where you started, where you're at now. And I said, you know what? This shit's not for sale. $300,000 isn't even a fraction of enough money to sell this. So I decided not to sign it, and I self-published. I pissed a lot of people off. And I said, I'm not signing this. I'm going to self-publish, and that's kind of how it came to be. I took that time to reflect, and I'd rather not make a dime. I read this book, and that's honest to God's truth. I am fine with the trophy I have in my mind. I never set out to write a book. When I was in the dungeon and no one was coming back to help me, I just wanted that reflection in that accountability mirror that I hated so badly to be something that gave me pride, to be something that made me feel. It's not about money. It's not about success. It's not about people. Oh my God, that's David Goggins. Sign my book. No. When I started this journey out years ago, it's about, I just want to learn to read. So now I'm at a place now where I see the possibilities of human potential. What are we capable of is the conversation now. The conversation now is, how can I now talk to people in a way they can understand the message that I have for so many people, So that's the new conversation now, is that you are constantly evolving. You never stay, either you're getting better or you're getting worse, you're not staying the same. So for me, I have to constantly be getting better. I have to constantly be evolving my message. So I'm constantly thinking in the quietness of my mind. Honestly, my biggest fear to this day is, and I say it a lot, and it's going to heaven and being judged by God. And, you know, God has, I believe that God has this, knows everything about you. From the time you're born, when you're going to be born, when you're going to die, when you're going to graduate, buzz, whatever's going to happen to you, he knows all this. Some people never do what God knows you're capable of doing because you know, we have choices. My biggest fear in life was to get to heaven and God look at me as I'm being judged. And I was some fat 300-pound guy like I used to be that still sprayed for cockroaches with you know, that's okay. It's what you want to do. I didn't want to do that. And I made $1,000, you know, a month. And I got to heaven and God laid out this chart in front of me. And he said, hey man, look at this chart. And it had my name on top and all this amazing shit. And I'm like, that's not me, man. He goes, that's who you were supposed to be. My biggest fear in life is that one day if I ever get judged by something, someone, some energy force, that I go up there and I failed the mission. Whatever force up there thought I was supposed to be some badass and I went up there underachieved. You know, I want that force up there that knows everything to be writing as I'm living and saying I had no idea he even had this in him. Mm. So I want to just be the best I can. And a lot of people say that. I truly mean that. I realize it's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about being accepted by your peers and everybody else. It's about figuring out who I am and being happy with who the I am. Even though I'm going to be judged for all these things, being able to put a middle finger up to everybody and say, this is David Goggins. And to get to that point, it felt great. Don't do everything in your life for money. Don't do everything. Yes, we need it to survive. There's a great drive and passion behind doing things for the mind and the soul. There's a great drive in that. Everybody goes, man, you talk with such passion. This is a life. This is my life. So that's what I want people to get from all this stuff, man. Like there's something inside you. The brain is the most powerful thing. The mind is the most powerful thing that we have. It's not your phone. It's not the computer. It's not anything. It's your mind. And if you can tap into that, you can come from the daggone roots of hell and become such a great seed, a powerful seed that can grow into some great daggone garden. And people don't get that. It's all up here. The power and the magic's up here.
Rule number 49, find your purpose.
And if you don't believe that you're here for a reason, your life will seriously hurt. And I start looking at my life and all the shit I went through as God put me, God, whatever you believe in, put me here to go through this. And now I see all the hundreds of thousands of lives I'm changing by the hell I went through. There's a lot of power in that. So my purpose, as I started going through this journey, instead of looking at like, woe is me, God, man, why why? I started looking at it as, it's the perfect training ground. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly what the you were doing, obviously. You put me in every situation possible to tell a story that needed to be told.
I get an email the other day. This young man wants to be a ranger, but he's afraid to go to ranger school. Not because how hard the training is, but because he's afraid if he fails, what people are going to say by judging him. One thing in life, this applies to everything in life. Anytime you move from being normal to trying to be exceptional, people aren't going to like that shit. Those normal people, it makes them feel like shit, so they're going to judge you. And nowadays, it's very easy to be a coward. Why? We got Instagram and shit. Most folks don't tell you to your face. They go online. They post about like cowards. Don't let cowards get in your head. And last thing, make sure you do you. Stay hard.